The scariest and most creepy things aren't always the ones that scream for your attention. They don't come with flashing lights or ominous music in the background. Instead, they sit quietly, unnoticed, hiding in plain sight. And that's exactly what makes these photographs so unsettling. At first glance, they look like any other image, ordinary, uneventful, maybe even boring. But once you uncover the truth behind them, they take on a whole new meaning. So join us for today's video as we explore 15 historical photos that capture terrifying moments in time. Number 15. The Body Farm. From a distance, it looks like nothing but a dumping ground. Bodies were scattered across a field, some covered in plastic, others naked and exposed to the elements. But this isn't a crime scene. It's just for research purposes. The University of Tennessee's Body Farm was made to study human decomposition in real-world conditions. The photo, taken in the 1970s, shows a row of corpses mid-decay, insects crawling, limbs bloated, skin peeling under the sun. Each body was donated, but that doesn't make it easier to look at. Some were posed under trees, others are shoved into trash bins or buried shallowly. Every setup is designed to mimic murder or abandonment. The point was noble: help law enforcement understand death better. But the visual impact is brutal. There's no dignity in the image, no shielding the eye. Just raw biology is what happens to us when time, air, and nature take over. Even now, the photo doesn't feel like research. It feels like voyeurism into the final chapter no one wants to imagine in full color. Number 14. Lynching postcards. The photo shows 5 black men hanging from the limbs of a dogwood tree, spaced apart like they were decorations. Below them, the mob stands unmasked, proud, smiling. This wasn't leaked. It wasn't hidden. It was printed and sold as a postcard, copyrighted, duplicated, and passed around like a keepsake. The Harkrider Drug Company of Center, Texas, published the image days after the event. Each man had a name: Jerry Evans, Will Johnson, Moss Spellman, Clevel Williams, and Will Manuel. All accused, none tried. Ripped from jail by 200 men. The 6th, attempting to run, was gunned down. Newspapers reported it like a county fair, headlines casually announcing, "Mob hangs 5, no trial, no judge, just a tree and a rope." These postcards, once mailed across the country, now live in archives. They force a confrontation, not just with the brutality, but with how acceptable it once was to turn murder into merchandise. These weren't anonymous moments. These were public events dressed as souvenirs. Number 13. Iroquois Theater Fire. Outside the ornate Iroquois Theater, smoke rolls from the windows. Inside, 600 souls are dying in darkness, crushed, burned, and suffocated. The photo captures only the surface, glass fogged by smoke, a calm facade masking the disaster within. Moments earlier, a faulty stage light sparked a curtain. The fireproof theater had no alarms and no sprinklers. A chemical powder meant to put out fires failed. A stagehand opened a door, triggering a backdraft. A fireball tore through the audience. The safety curtain jammed. Fire exits were locked or unmarked. Some doors had unfamiliar French locks. Others were made to open inward. People panicked and rushed toward what looked like doors but weren't. Hundreds became trapped in narrow corridors, stacked bodies clogging every escape. Many died standing up. The building collapsed in silence, while the outside stayed eerily quiet. This wasn't just negligence. It was a design built to impress, not to protect. And in that fatal gap between performance and safety, lives were erased faster than flames could be seen. Number 12. Final photo of MH17. He posted it as a joke. A simple snapshot of the plane from the boarding bridge, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17. The caption read, "If it disappears, here's what it looks like." A nod to MH370, the other Malaysian flight that vanished 4 months earlier. Hours later, this man and 297 others were gone. The aircraft was shot down over eastern Ukraine, shattered mid-air by a missile. Bodies rained across sunflower fields. Passports, stuffed animals, and suitcases landed miles apart. The image, once casual, became an accidental memorial. Not dramatic or staged. Just a quiet photo of a jet waiting to take off, unknowingly flying into airspace thick with war and denial. In the aftermath, governments pointed fingers. Russia and Ukraine both denied it. Investigations dragged, truth twisted. But this photo stayed simple. One man, capturing what he thought was irony. Instead, he documented the last calm moment before 298 lives were shredded by geopolitics. The tragedy isn't just in the loss, it's in the innocence of what came right before. Number 11. Varg Vikernes. He's smiling. Calm, clean-shaven, almost content. If you didn't know who he was, you'd mistake the photo for a profile shot of a quiet man aging in peace. But Varg Vikernes isn't someone you forget once you know the story. A figure in Norway's black metal scene, he didn't just play music. He set fire to churches and killed his bandmate Øystein Euronymous Arseth in 1993. The murder wasn't an accident. Varg stabbed him 23 times. The smile in the prison photo isn't regret, it's self-assurance. Varg later claimed it was self-defense, then wrapped his beliefs in neo-pagan ideology, offering a worldview soaked in fire, myth, and violence. He was sentenced to 21 years, Norway's maximum, and released in 2009. He still makes music, still talks freely, still doesn't flinch when discussing what he did. The disconnect between the photo and the history behind it is what burns in your brain. It's not just the smile, it's what it doesn't show that chills. Number 10. British POWs released from Japanese camps. They walked out of the camp in silence. Dozens of men, skeletal and sunburnt, bones straining against loose fabric, some barefoot, others in splintered sandals. This photo was taken shortly after the liberation of British prisoners of war from Japanese captivity in Singapore. Most had been held for years, forced into slave labor, beaten regularly, and starved until their bodies broke. Their eyes in the photo tell the story, some wide and dazed, others looking downward, ashamed of what they'd become. The limbs are frail, faces sunken. A few manage faint smiles, but they don't reach their eyes. Their uniforms are tattered, and their gait isn't one of triumph, it's survival in motion. The men behind the barbed wire had names, ranks, and families. But for a long time, they were only numbers on paper. The photograph doesn't need blood to disturb, it's the absence of life in those faces. They survived, technically. But you can see in every stare how much didn't come back with them. Number 9. Unshackling a slave. A British sailor crouches down, unlocking the thick iron shackle wrapped around the ankle of a man who had been chained for 3 years. The man's legs are thin, his feet swollen, the skin beneath the cuff raw and discolored, his eyes don't look up, he's not crying or reacting. There's a numbness in his body that says more than any scream could. This photo wasn't taken in some remote century, it was 1907. Slavery, though officially outlawed in many places, still persisted through loopholes, colonization, and neglect. The sailor in the photo is calm, detached, and performing his duty. The man being freed, he doesn't show joy. There's too much time, too much pain, too many lost years behind that silence. The image isn't celebratory. It's a quiet, brutal testimony that freedom sometimes comes far too late. And when it finally does, there's no trumpet, just a rusted chain falling to the ground and a body unsure what it means to walk without pain. Number 8. Survivors in the dust. Ash covers everything. The people in the photo are moving, but their expressions are totally frozen, blank, dazed, somewhere between shock and instinct. This was taken just after the South Tower collapsed. Survivors from the 87th floor of the North Tower wander the street, lost in a world that no longer looks real. Suits turned gray, skin coated in fine dust. Some hold on to each other, others walk alone. The background looks like a war zone. Cars overturned, storefronts buried, sirens muffled beneath layers of debris. The woman closest to the lens has blood running down her face, but she's not aware of it. Her gaze is fixed on something far beyond the street. This photo doesn't need fire to disturb. It captures that moment after the destruction of the World Trade Center when the mind hasn't caught up yet. These people had just walked through a skyscraper that exploded from above. No soundbite, no headline, no number can match the terror etched into their silence. They lived, but they're not whole. Number 7. The Euthanasia Pod. It looks like something from a sci-fi museum. Sleek curves, soft lighting, clean design. But this isn't a capsule for space travel. It's called the Sarcopod, and it's designed to end your life. At the press of a button, the pod floods with nitrogen, dropping oxygen levels within seconds. No needles, no alarms, just sleep that never ends. The image shows the pod ready for use, sitting calmly in a showroom. There's no blood, no drama, only an overwhelming coldness in how quiet the idea is. The person who climbs inside won't scream. They won't fight. They'll just exhale and disappear. It's legal in some places and debated in others, but the photo itself doesn't argue. It just waits. Whether you see peace or horror in this image depends on what you carry with you. But either way, the concept presses down hard. Not because it's violent, but because it makes death look so easy, so efficient, so normal. Like walking into a door and never walking back out. Number 6. Bedlam Asylum Patient in Chains. He sits slumped in a stone cell, back against the wall, wrists chained to an iron loop. His eyes stare straight ahead, but there's nothing behind them. This photo came from London's infamous Bethlem Royal Hospital, better known as Bedlam, and it was a super-duper terrifying place. The man had been locked away for years, considered too dangerous to be among the public. The real problem is that most of Bedlam's patients weren't dangerous at all. They were poor, traumatized, orphaned, or inconvenient. And once inside, they rarely left. Some were displayed to paying visitors as entertainment. Others were experimented on, beaten, or left naked and starving. The man in this photo had no name listed. Just a number and a diagnosis scrawled beside the image. Melancholic madness. No record of treatment, no date of release. Just a photograph of what it looks like when society gives up on someone completely. His expression is what stays with you. It's not fear, it's not pain. It's the complete and total absence of hope. Number 5. Radium Girls. They painted watch dials with glowing paint and told it was safe enough to lick the brushes to keep the lines sharp. Their faces, hands, and teeth began to glow in the dark. At first it was considered cute, a novelty, but then jaws started collapsing. Teeth fell out. One girl sneezed, and half her skull dislodged into her hand. The photo shows a group of them smiling, mid-work, unaware they were slowly dying from radium exposure. The glow wasn't magic. It was radiation breaking them down from the inside. Their workers dismissed complaints and called it hysteria. In fact, doctors who saved lives were paid to lie. By the time the truth surfaced, most of the women were already beyond saving. The brightness in the photo feels cruel now. Their skin is still intact. Their bones are not yet hollowed out. They smiled for the camera, glowing like lanterns. No one told them that light was the signal of something eating them alive. The worst part, they weren't just killed, they were used. Number 4. Soviet Sleep Deprivation Experiment Photo. Well, it's definitely hard to say if the story is true. But this photo exists. A man sits crouched in a dark room, skin shredded, eyes wide, bones pressing through his flesh. He grins at the camera, teeth blood-stained, as if proud of what he's become. The Soviet sleep experiment has been passed around like legend. Prisoners kept awake for 15 days using gas, denied food and light, and studied like insects. The official records, they don't exist. But the photo is real enough to haunt. Whether propaganda or proof, it shows what sleep deprivation and unchecked cruelty does to the human mind. The man no longer looks human. His nails are torn. His mouth is frozen in something between laughter and agony. You don't need the full story. One look is enough. If it's staged, it's the most convincing nightmare ever captured. If it's real, it's one of the darkest things a camera has ever been pointed at. Either way, the image doesn't blink. It stares back. Number 3. Trench foot. One foot is swollen beyond recognition, the other already blackened, toes curled under like burnt branches. The soldier's face isn't shown, just his legs raised for documentation. This wasn't a rare condition. Trench foot was everywhere during World War I. Caused by standing in cold, wet conditions for days on end, it destroyed tissue, crippled movement, and often led to amputation. The photo was taken as part of a medical training program, meant to educate, but it looks like punishment. Layers of skin have peeled away. The bone pushes through the heel. There's no blood in the shot, but you feel the pain radiating from the image. This wasn't from an explosion or gunfire, just boots, water, and time. The worst part, after all that suffering, many of these soldiers were sent back to the front line. Some with canes, some missing limbs, all expected to fight. In a war where mud is as brutal as bullets, the photo becomes a silent kind of scream. Number 2. The hanging of Mary the elephant. The photo shows a crane hoisting a massive elephant by the neck, her feet dangling helplessly above a crowd. Mary, a circus elephant, had killed a handler, though witnesses said he beat her with a hook first, but the public demanded justice, and the circus agreed to execute her, not by bullet, but by hanging. In front of over 2,000 people, Mary was led to a rail yard, chained and lifted by the neck with a crane used for locomotives. The first attempt failed. The chain snapped, and she crashed to the ground, breaking her hip. The second time worked. The photo captures her mid-air, swaying slightly, surrounded by men in bowler hats and children sitting on her shoulders. No one looked away. This wasn't punishment. It was a spectacle. The absurd cruelty of hanging an animal that couldn't understand her crime speaks louder than any headline. It's not just disturbing because of what happened. It's disturbing because it was considered fun. Number 1. Death masks of executed criminals. Lined up on a shelf, each face locked in its final expression. Some are twisted. Others are eerily serene. These are death masks, wax or plaster molds taken from the heads of criminals immediately after execution. Before photography became widespread, this was one of the only ways to preserve identity. The practice was common across Europe, and this particular photo taken in France shows over 24 of them. Some mouths are still slightly agape, eyes bulging. Skin impressions are still raw. You can see the folds of the noose etched into the wax. The collection wasn't for honor or remembrance. It was for criminologists, phrenologists, and morbid collectors. Scientists believed the skull shape could reveal evil. So these heads became evidence. Catalogued, compared, dissected. The result looks less like research and more like a trophy room. The unsettling part isn't just the death. It's the illusion of curiosity pretending to be care. These people were killed, then molded, then studied like beasts. Their dignity was stripped twice. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.